National Championship Tour, this time from Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego, California. And we're just about ready to start monster truck qualifying. Jerry, with the rain out there, this could be an interesting session.
Certainly could be. We're watching qualifying of the monster trucks, and the qualifying will give us the pairings of the first round of competition.
We should probably point out that they only have one qualifying run each. This is a one-shot deal.
That's right, Brett. And also, we'll be watching just one monster truck at a time. So we're going to have a good look at each one of the monster trucks as they make their qualifying pass. Coming up first, it's going to be the Ecology Eliminator. It'll be driven tonight by Jim Reese.
I'll tell you what, Jerry, that was an incredible run considering the fact that we were just talking about how slippery it's going to be. 4.10 seconds is substantially quicker than we thought we were going to see.
Well, coming up next will be Barefoot, driven tonight by Warren Davis.
It's going to be exceptionally tough to better that 410. Looked like Davis may have actually had a problem down there near the finish line, dropping the right side tires off the cars. Don't look for this to be the #1 spot. 4.10 seconds is the mark to beat. Warren Davis, the Montana driver of the Barefoot Chevy, runs 7.17 seconds. That's going to put him way down in the field later on.
Next pair coming up to the line, it's going to be the AM/PM Boss, driven tonight by Robert Parker.
Saw this machine do exceptionally well at Anaheim at the second event of the season. A heavyweight Chevrolet, but still a strong truck. Boy, now that was as smooth as glass, Jerry. You couldn't ask for a better run. 6.29 seconds, just a little bit conservative, but good enough for the #2 spot.
Coming up next, Larry Tura behind the controls of Hercules.
The Ohio driver with the Ford Ranger and Ford Power.
Is it over?
Yeah, you can definitely see that these drivers are starting to be concerned with the wet surface of the track, and being conservative is going to be the name of the game just to get a decent spot in the middle of the field here. The elapsed time for Larry Tura, 7.97 seconds. That will probably keep him in.
Coming up next, Hot Stuff with Todd Blazer behind the controls. Here's one to keep an eye on. Whoa.
Blazer's not going to worry about any slippery course. This is the young man we saw do so well at the very first event of the year in Seattle, Washington. That short wheelbase Chevy-powered Jeep runs 4.59 seconds. Great run under these conditions.
Here's the Terminator, Mark Jaleski, doing the driving.
This is a relatively new truck, fairly heavy with big block Chevrolet power, but it'll be interesting to see how it does. I'll tell you, that thing has a loose suspension. It was all over the place, but managed to keep at least 3 wheels on the ground. Gillespie's relatively new entry should be somewhere in the mid-6s there. 7 seconds flat. That'll be good enough right now for one of the top 5 spots.
We'll talk about heavy. Here's one of the heaviest ones tonight, the Iron Butterfly. Terry McLaughlin driving.
McLaughlin doing everything he can to get 22,000 pounds in the Iron Butterfly van over those cars. You'll notice it never did put a wheel up in the air. 6.99 seconds. Actually, that's pretty serious for these conditions.
Look at this. This is four-wheel crazy Rob Morris.
Indeed, the young man who won the last event of the tour at Anaheim in a serious underdog effort. And again, look at sparks coming out from underneath the front end. He may have damaged the front drive unit. The elapsed time, 5.31 seconds, will be good for third, but he's looking for points.
Alan Pizzo with the Predator.
Another guy we saw do so well at Anaheim.
It's some air.
Actually got a lot more air than I thought he would, considering that he left the starting line pretty easily. The semifinalist from our last event runs 6.02 seconds. That'll be good for one of the top 6 spots.
The Skull Crusher, Steve Helms. Beautiful machine. He's ready to go.
One of the heavier Fords in competition. The Crusher waiting for the start signal.
Puts the pedal down.
Well, you see some of these guys trying to take it easy, and that other one's just coming out and bonsaiing it. Right now, Helms at 6.24 seconds will be in the top half of the field, but I don't think these guys are too concerned with the slipperiness of the track.
Well, we talked to him earlier. Here's Gene Patterson now with Bigfoot.
Obviously, the crowd loves every minute of this Big Blue Ford's performances. The #1 spot right now, 4.10 seconds. That's the mark to beat for Patterson, the Missouri driver in Chandler's Supercharged Ford.
This is qualifying for first round pairings that we're watching right now. Here we go, Gene Patterson.
I'll tell you, had he not nosedived that thing on the next to last car, that would have been even quicker. 4.55 seconds. Tell you what, he used up every inch of stopping distance, but here's one of the wildest drivers on the circuit.
You better believe it. This is Jeff Painter with High Voltage, a short wheelbase machine. Let's watch him now.
He's always one of the wildest out there. Never fails to put on a show. #1 spot, 410.
Wow!
Unbelievable, landing on the left front wheel only. Painter makes a serious charge for the pole, runs 5.12 seconds, and that'll be good enough for the #4 qualifying spot, Jer.
Final truck to qualify, the Exterminator, driver Gary Schott.
Big Chevrolet that did quite well at Anaheim as well. Online.
Here we go, first two coming up. It's going to be Bigfoot, driven by Gene Patterson, going against Robert Parker, the AM/PM boss.
No contest there as the Big Blue Ford takes it on the very first pair, the very first round, and obviously the crowd loves every bit of it. It looks like Patterson got the whole shot. Then he did another one of those nosedives on the next to last car, Jerry, at 5.30 seconds. He was 0.2 of a second ahead of the AM/PM boss, but that's still about 0.8 seconds slower than he went in qualifying.
Great run for both machines. Left side, it's going to be barefoot. Warren Davis doing the driving against the Predator, Alan Pizzo. Side-by-side racing. Here we go.
What a battle. Alan Pizzo had that one, Jerry.
It was a great run. Look at this now.
See him hit both in the air about the same point. Now watch Pizzo on the right side. He takes a nosedive. The front end comes way up, and that's all Warren Davis needed to drive around right there. About a half a truck length, but it was enough, somewhat of an upset. And barefoot at 5.29 seconds. That's the quickest winning run we've seen.
Oh, yes. All right. The Terminator, Mark Jaleski, will be driving, and he'll be going against four-wheel crazy Rob Morris from Fort Worth, Texas.
Morris, of course, the young man who won Anaheim.
Close.
Manages to pull this one out. I'll tell you, it looked like Morris was behind at about the quarter track mark, and then the Chevrolet started to fall back, or the Ford drove around, one of the two. You can see, again, he's using still a little bit of a conservative approach. He only cleared 3 cars on that jump. So, again, the car is still being a little wet at 5.89 seconds. You can tell Morris was taking it easy.
He certainly got him at the finish line. All right, next pair. It's going to be the Skull Crusher, Steve Helms. It'll be on the left side of your screen, and he'll be going against Hercules, Larry Tura.
Another Ford and Chevy match. Got a lot of them. The crowd should love it. No question, Jerry, driving won that race. Helms got the whole shot, and a big whole shot at that. Look at that, almost a truck length as they hit the first set of cars. Then you could see that the Hercules machine just could never recover from that whole shot. A 6.03 second winning time to a losing 7.55 for Tura. The Chevrolet Crusher advances.
Well, Brett, this one coming up ought to be very interesting. The Exterminator with Gary Schott doing the driving. He'll be going against Hot Stuff, Todd Blazer.
I'll tell you, both drivers had to do some wheeling in that one. Blazer on the brakes hard in the short wheelbase Jeep. There's no question that this young man in his second race ever is going to be a star. 4.71 seconds, sideways landing that puts him up in the air a second time. He stays in the throttle, never gets off the gas to take that win. I should point out, Jerry, the most unfortunate aspect of this first round is that one of the up-and-coming stars on the U.S. Hobbit Association Trail, Jeff Painter's Jeep, the high-voltage machine, could not make it out for this first round after breaking something after qualifying. In fact, the Iron Butterfly van, which took advantage of his break, will move in against the four-wheel crazy of Rob Morris. Take a look, though, at the second pair of the next round. The one everybody came to see, Jerry, Bigfoot versus Barefoot.
It certainly is going to be a good one. That second round of competition is going to be unbelievable.
It's true. You got the Eliminator versus the AMPM Boss. The Eliminator, of course, in its second ever race. An amazing job so far for that machine. And the Skull Crusher will take on the Hot Stuff Jeep of young Todd Blazer. Second round should be outrageous, no question.
Well, talk about outrageous. The wraps are coming off of one of the most incredible machines you have ever seen, Brett. This is called Robosaurus.
The world debut of what may well be the most incredible single machine ever built anywhere. Jerry, Doug Malwicki out of California has come up, look at this thing, with one of the most unbelievable things you'll ever see.
You're going to be seeing this in a special motion picture that's going to be made this summer. It's also going to be part of a television series. Robosaurus, it's 40 feet tall. It weighs 56,000 pounds.
You know what's incredible? They have two guys inside the head of this thing that run it, Doug Malwicki and his crew, and I believe there's more to it than that, isn't there?
Well, that's right. There is a third person that is part of the ground crew that is in radio communication with the two fellows that are operating this right in the head area of the machine itself, Robosaurus.
You can see it incinerating this car. Now, Robosaurus can actually eat cars. Look at the people down on the floor of Jack Murphy Stadium. They literally cannot believe their eyes. The crowd is in stunned silence at this point.
Well, it took 18 months to build this machine, and it crushes 4,000-pound cars. In fact, it eats them.
Simply amazing. This is one of the most incredible things you will ever witness as far as the way it is operated. Since it does have people inside of it, it can do just about anything through a series of air brakes, cylinders, valves, pumps, air suspensions, you name it. Take a look at Robosaurus chomping on a Toyota here.
There it goes. Rips the roof right off of it.
Unbelievable. Simply astounding. The flame out of the nose. Now the crowd's coming alive.
Oh, they love this one.
High-performance automotive speakers by Stillwater Designs. Brett Kepner and Jerry Devine with you. Jerry, we're moving into the second round of monster truck racing.
Ah, yes, it's the Eliminator with Jim Reese behind the controls going against the AMPM boss, Robert Parker, driving.
I'll tell you, we've talked a lot about the Eliminator on the left-hand side, only its second event, #1 qualifier. Here it is in the quarterfinals. It should be awfully interesting. Reese is a relatively new driver, too.
Got to win to stay into the program from now on. Here we go.
And no contest as Reese drives away from the boss in this all-Chevrolet battle. Jerry, I'm almost inclined to think that Reese is going to be a little bit stronger than even the people thought he was going to be after #1 qualifier. On the slow motion replay, you can see basically an even start. No real whole shot advantage, but even by the time they got to their car ramps, it was Reese and this still primered Chevrolet, I should point out, driving away. That thing is still so new they haven't had a chance to paint it. The elapsed time, 6.03 seconds for the AMPM boss, but not even close.
Well, here's the rivalry. Barefoot going against Bigfoot. Now, we're going to be telling you in a few minutes how you can learn about the fascinating story between these two monsters and why they're such bitter enemies. So you might want to get a pencil and paper handy. Warren Davis driving Barefoot, Gene Patterson driving Bigfoot. Here we go. Ford and Chevrolet.
I'll tell you, Davis starts to move in on him at the finish line, but that race was won on Gene Patterson's driving reactions. The starting line, whole shot, went to the big blue Ford. Look at the crowd. Every time these two get together, Jerry, the crowd is literally going crazy.
Oh, they love it.
It helps when you pump them up a little, too, doesn't it? Patterson out of the cockpit, letting the fans know that he was driving for the Ford freaks out there. But as you pointed out, Jerry, this battle is so intense. And again, Patterson got the whole shot. That's what he needed. 5.12 seconds for Bigfoot, 5.56 for Barefoot. Wild landing by Patterson. That's where Warren Davis started moving in on him, but it was still 3/4 of a truck on the finish line.
All right, here's four-wheel crazy. Rob Morse doing the driving. And he'll be going against the Iron Butterfly, Terry McLaughlin. Close.
You know, I'll tell you, I am amazed that was as close as it was. McLaughlin was out in front at half track. It wasn't until the last 30 or 40 feet that Rob Morris really got a serious advantage. 650 to 664, 14 hundredths of a second between.
Most points in the 1990 $100,000 Camel Series. The Eliminator with Jim Reese will be going against Bigfoot Gene Patterson.
Now we get to see what Reese and the Eliminator's really capable of. Number one qualifier taking on Bigfoot in another Ford and Chevy battle. This will be interesting.
It certainly will. Blue truck is Bigfoot. The primer machine is the Eliminator, Jim Reese. Here we go. They are ready. Upset.
Unbelievable upset. And I'll tell you what, for the third straight run, Gene Patterson nosedived the Big Blue Ford into the next to last car, and that's what kept him from winning this match. The Elam's tied 5.52 seconds for Bigfoot. There's the nosedive that put the front end back up. Patterson had to get out of the throttle just for a minute. Boy, he almost tore the right rear tire right off the rim there on the landing. In the meantime, in the other lane, Reese was driving on by at the finish line. What an upset.
All right, now we have four-wheel crazy Rob Morris. He'll be on the left side of your screen. Rob Morris from Fort Worth, Texas. He'll be going against Hot Stuff, Todd Blazer.
Now, Jerry, we saw the four-wheel crazy Ford win in its first ever event at Anaheim. Here's Todd Blazer's Jeep in its second ever event. Who do you think's going to win?
Well, that short wheelbase Jeep is certainly one to keep an eye on. The Jeep takes the win.
I'll tell you, I would never have believed it after Rob Morris's domination of Anaheim. Todd Blazer in only his second event. The Wisconsin driver in the Jeep puts her way up in the air and takes another rough landing. That short wheelbase Jeep just wants to go everywhere when it comes down onto the cars. He'll advance to the final round at 5.34 seconds, about 15 hundredths of a second slower than Eliminator. But it'll be the Big Red Jeep against the primered Chevrolet of Jim Reese in the final round here at San Diego.
Well, here is that final round, and this is the first time for both of these drivers to be in the finals. The Eliminator, Jim Reese, going against Hot Stuff, Todd Blazer.
Tell you, you don't know who to pick. The number one qualifier against the number three qualifier. This should be interesting.
Both machines about ready to go. The drivers watching the starters. Here we go. It's Jim Reese.
I'll tell you, Blazer was really moving in on him down there at the finish line, but indeed, Jim Reese takes his first ever national event win on the